And we also have a standalone controller reader. The standalone controller reader will work without the door controller. So actually the standalone door controller reader is if you want to just use one door system to save some of the cost. And it would also work on a cloud-based function. And so the standalone reader, again, comes in the regular card type reader or the card and a fingerprint type reader. And there are also multiple modules for the access control, depending on what type of card you want to use. So we have a card for EM procs, MyFair, and iClass smart card. And the module just simply goes into the back of the reader to allow this functionality. Right. Now we're going to talk about the simple layout of the access control. So from the very top layout, we have one of the COSEC panel. And again, the COSEC panel is basically the server, which stores all the user information, access credentials, schedule. The panel is basically the brain of the whole system. Then we have the door controllers, which is the ARC, right? Door controllers here. One door controller can support two readers and two door strikes. And this is very modular. So if you have one door, you get one door controller. If you have two doors, you can get two door controllers, and so on and so forth. So it's very flexible. And instead of buying one panel, which supports like 4 doors or 8 doors, you just buy however many door controllers you need for that for the application. In addition, the door controller can also support what they call it as a dual door layout. So one controller can actually support two doors, and on the entry side, you have a reader, and for exit, you have an exit switch. So this is another mode you can set the reader into, which allows you to get two doors for one reader using the exit switch to leave. Now we're going to talk briefly about the physical connections. So for the physical connections part of this, actually, I want to pass this over to where is Abe and Minesh? Abe, to unmute. Minesh. Hi, Minesh.
Hi, Jaden.
Hi, hi, Minesh. Can you just briefly introduce yourself, and then I want you to explain a little bit more about the cabling for the controllers.
Sure. So, my name is Soni. I'm handling a technical part for metric solution for pre-sales as well as the post-sales. So, as you can see over here, so we have a devices which can connect to a controller. Now, this particular device which you see in the screen that can connect to a controller using a RS485 communication. So each controller, the ARC controller, can control up to two readers, which will be connected over a RS485. The readers can also get a power through a ARC controller, so no additional power would be required. We have a devices called CB readers, which are shown over here, Cossack Reader CB. So that device is having a two interfaces. One is a VGAN and one is a RS485. So these readers can communicate with the ARC controller over RS485, and it can communicate with a matrix controller, like which are a fingerprint plus card controllers. It can communicate over RS232. So it have a flexibility that it can connect to a matrix controllers, as well as it can also connect to a third party controllers over a vGAN interface. So it has a vGAN RS485 plus RS232 communication.
Mhm. And these are some of the interfaces on the Panel Lite. So this is the Panel Lite again. This is the server of the whole unit, and it powers from the 12-volt power supply. And you can connect auxiliary output, such as to a speaker, auxiliary input, such as smoke detector, RS485, which can connect to the door controller, but more likely we're going to be using the Ethernet. And the Ethernet is going to connect to all of these door controllers on the switch, right? So if you have one door controller or two door controllers, you're going to have a four-channel switch. If you have many, many more door controllers, it's all going through the Ethernet LAN connection. Mhm. Right. And here is the wiring between the reader and the arc. So it's a five wires. Is that correct, Minesh? Five wires. One, two, three, four.
It's a four-wire communication, and so RS485 A, B, and power supply.
Right, that's correct.
And
So mhm, it is
yes, and
four
there's
wires.
additional shield cable.
Right. So I'm just gonna highlight this part. So on the matrix door controller, you have two sections here. This is for door one. Let's say this is a door one, and then this is for door two. And it's just four wires connecting between the both of them. And these are the connections which are going to the door strike or to the exit switch.
Can you use Cat5 for the reader?
Uh, yes, you could use Cat5, right? Because it's just a wired connection. So as long as you're able to splice those connections together, you could technically you could use one Cat5 cable for two readers because it's four wires per reader. So yes, you could use a Cat5.
Yeah.
Right? And then for powering it to the door strike, it's just two wires, positive, negative, to power the door strike.
Jaden, in some traditional access control that I use, the the controller, which you call the matrix, has a battery backup in order to be able to power the strike and the reader in case of power failure. So it allows the customer to continue using it in the event of a power failure. Is that possible with this setup?
Yes, Mitchell, thank you for your question. It is possible. And because all of these devices are powered through traditional, like a wall outlet type of power, we can actually use a UPS battery backup, have every single device on the UPS battery backup. And then this will be used in case of the power failure. All the access control device will keep running.
Uh, Jaden, this is Kaushal. Just to add on to Mitchell's question, we also have battery backup units which can directly power the door controller as well.
Hmm.
in case of power failure.
Yep. Is that different from a traditional UPS?
Yes, so those are basically to a specific device. You just mount it at the rear end of the device, and they can work as a battery backup.
Okay, thank you. So we
So
have.
this,
Mhm.
so the strike, the two wires that are coming from the strike, they're brought into the matrix. They're,
That's
and the strike is powered by the matrix, or is it a separate power transformer?
it's powered by Matrix.
Yep. Here you can see it's actually powered directly from the door controller from the matrix.
And the matrix can power it if it's a 12 volt or a 12 volt DC, or a 24 volt AC as well, or
It will be 12-volt DC.
Hmm.
okay. And if the client wants to put a 24 volt AC, can we power it? Can we power it using a separate power supply, and then uh, bring that connection into the matrix?
If it is a AC, then we need to use a contactor because the relays which we are using over here are Form C dry contact relays. So all are DC relays.
Okay. So do you have a way of connecting 24 volt AC electric strikes?
Yes, we can use a external contactors. So those are the AC relays. So we can give a trigger from this controller to a contactor, and in a contactor you can connect the AC door strikes.
Okay.
Hmm. Perfect. And this is an optional, but it's not required. If you want to use external power, let's say if you're using a mag lock, then you would be using external power. Um, but for most of the situation, it's going to be just power directly from the matrix. And additionally, we have a function which Viraj did a lot of testing on. We actually can connect our UniView OET thermal phase scanner with the matrix arc. And when there's a successful face recognition plus a card matching event, it will open the door strike. Um, and yeah, we have all the wiring diagrams here. This presentation will be available after. We will send it to your email. So don't worry about if you're missing anything out. We're going to send you guys a presentation afterwards. Right. So how do we configure the matrix uh, controller, and how do we configure the panel? So by default, the ARC, the ARC is a door controller, will be under the 192.168.50.50 IP address. Okay. Now, when you plug it to the network, you're going to log into that IP address. And if you want to, you can change it to a different IP address. But it also works just on a different network, right? So for security purpose, you can choose which network you want to put everything on, as long as the panel and the ARC are both in the same network. Then you're going to, again, this is for the Panel Lite. So the Panel Lite is pretty much what you're going to log into. That will be 192.168.50.1 as a default configuration. You log into it, there's going to be a web interface. You log in with a username admin, password 1234. And from there, you're going to configure all your settings like the users, enrollment for the cards, and so forth. Yep. So it's very simple to add a user. I'm going to show you guys here in just a moment. But for adding the user, we need this information, which you can see the user's ID, email address, mobile phone number, which is optional, and you assign them to a door. So I'm going to show you how easy this is in just a moment. Oh, Let me just share my screen here. Right. So can you guys see my screen? I'm logging into the COSEC Panel Lite right now. You guys can see this, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Okay, so this is the panel light. Again, this is what we're going to be configuring for the access control system. So on the dashboard, you see how many devices are connected, how many users, and if there's any schedule, you will see your schedules here. We go to configuration, users, user configuration, and we can add a user. And I'm just going to show you from editing the user, all this information we have for the user, like their name. And once you've added a user, you're going to select which doors they're going to add. So by selecting the door, you just you just check the doors. So door, and you give them access or you don't give them access to the doors. And once that's done, you click OK. And for the access control part, this is where we have their card information. So if they have one card or multiple cards, it's going to be in here. And this can also be done from the enrollment side. And when we enroll the user, it means we choose their name from here. We choose the door to set up as an enrolling station. And then once you've done that, the station will turn into enrollment mode. When you tap the card, the credential will automatically be added into their username. So that's how we add the credentials. Right. So it's pretty simple from the beginning. Mhm. Right. So this is just a brief overview of the system. Now, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask the questions. And we're going to be putting up a lot of this information to our website as well, including the full manual, wiring diagrams, and so on. So, yep, feel free to ask if you have some questions.
Could you show the initial setup that you shown on the one of the earliest pages?
Yep.
I guess that one, yeah.
Like this would be your typical situation. You have entry or exit.
Could you go back to the next one, the following page?
Mhm.
Yeah, that one. Because that for me is a more typical installation where you have two doors connected to one ARC 200 controller. So the ARC 200 controller is installed, and you wire everything. You wire all the door devices back to the controller, right? I guess you call that the controller, right?
You mean the very top device?
No, the ARC 200.
Oh, yeah, that's the door controller, right?
That's the door controller. So you wire all the different devices for the door back to that ARC controller, right?
In terms of all the devices, you mean the reader and the door
The
shut?
reader, the exit switch, the contact.
Yes, that's correct, Mitchell. So this
And
door
then
control, yeah,
and
sorry.
then that ARC controller uh, connects to the network, or it connects. How does it? It has to transmit its information back to the COSEC panel, right?
Right. So the way that you can think about this is that all of these devices here will be on the same network. So for example, you can put them on a switch, and this is all connecting through the LAN, right? So just think about it, it's like on a switch, for example.
Okay, so I could connect it as if it was it's an own internal network where all the ARC devices, all the ARC 200s get connected to a switch, and then that switch gets connected to the COSEC panel, and the COSEC panel gets connected to the switch,
Right.
right?
If you want to think about it like from a CCTV perspective, this is like the NVR,
Right,
and then the door controllers are like your cameras,
right.
and they're all
Gotcha.
connected on the same switch. Yeah.
Right. So so the software and then that COSEC panel is recording all the information, or does that COSEC panel need to be connected to a PC where you install the software and where the information will be saved?
Yes, the COSEC panel is storing all of the information. It does not need to connect to any PC.
Okay, so how long will it hold information for?
Yeah.
It records 500,000 events.
And roughly, well, look, so I'm not used to that in terms of a number of events, because I'm normally used to putting it on a computer that has a certain size hard drive.
Right. So basically, so for example, any credential you show to the device is one event. So such 500,000 events it can store.
I understand. So, but how many days is that on a typical
So
installation?
so how many? It depends on the number of users. So let's say if there are 30 users, and each user in a day shows his credential 10 times, then 300. So if I divide
It's like 1,800 days or something like that.
yeah,
It's a lot. It
That's
depends
per
on
door. That's per door, though, right?
that's assuming that there's a like assuming they use the system 10 times in one day, right? 10 times in one day. It's not
Yeah, but that's only if there's multiple doors. You divide, then you drop the. If it's more than one door, if it's two doors, it's half as much time. If it's 10 doors, it's 10 times less much as time.
it's not per door, it's per event. So whenever you tap your card, that creates one event. So it doesn't
No,
matter.
I understand. I understand. So, is there a way of upgrading the amount of time it'll store for?
you can schedule a backup of this and keep it. You can schedule it, and that would be stored on any FTP or any path that you define on a server. It can take a backup automatically and store the data.
Okay, and so where do you put your battery backup to back up so that the whole system can work for a certain amount of time? Do you put it at each ARC 200, or do you put it at the COSEC panel?
So ARC 200 gets power from PoE. So if that switch has been powered, it will power everything else in the system.
Okay, so if you wanted to power all your doors, your readers and your strikes and your other devices, you would put your battery backup at the beginning of the network where the COSEC panel is. Is that it?
That's correct. Yes.
And so the battery backup, what is it that you use? Is it like a UPS?
So what we use is for each door controller, we have a separate battery backup, which you can see in the center of the screen. There is a path, the path readers. So we have same for path door controllers. The models that I think Jaden covered was DC. It starts with DC. Those have battery backup. That's what we provide. That's an external battery backup. The other option is to use a UPS.
Okay, so this,
Hmm.
sorry, so this external battery backup would go where exactly?
So
So
what?
that
Yeah, Minesh, go ahead.
yeah, so that external battery backup will be connected. Say in this case, the external battery backup can be connected to the DC200. Now this DC200 can be powered using a PoE
Sorry,
as well as
what is a DC 200?
that controller ARC DC200, which you can see on the
Oh,
screen. That's
okay,
the
yes,
ARC
sorry.
controller.
Yeah,
Yes. So that can be powered either through a PoE or it can be powered through an adapter. So it requires a 12 volt, 2 ampere DC supply. So if you it can get a power from any of them. If you want to supply a battery backup, we have a two option. Either if you use an external UPS, we can provide it to a switch. So all devices will be connected over a PoE, and from there the power will be distributed. If we want to supply a battery backup to individual devices, if we are not using a switch, a normal switch, in that case, we can give an individual power supply or a battery backup to each of these ARC controller, the DC200.
okay.
Mhm. I think the best way to think about it is you get your UPS, right? Uninterruptible power supply. Then you connect your PoE switch to this. Then you connect all the other devices to that PoE switch. And because the PoE switch is on the UPS, then all the door controllers and so forth will have a battery backup.
Right, yeah.
So
And uh, so the readers are RS45 back to the ARC DC 200.
Correct.
And when you want to access the COSEC panel to look at
Mm-hmm.
the software, you're
Mm-hmm.
using a PC to access the COSEC panel to look at the software.
uh,
Correct.
yeah, it's not a software, so to say. It's more like the NVR's web interface. So you're just going through the Internet Explorer or the Google Chrome, and you log into the IP.
Okay, so it's strictly when you're accessing the COSEC panel, it's strictly through a web-based browser software, a
Yeah,
browser-based software.
browser-based software, basically like an NVR. Yes, and that's where you manage all of your settings.
Right, except with an NVR, if you're using a PC to connect to your NVR, you have the option of using a client software on your PC. But in this case, it's primarily through, or it's only through the web-based, the browser-based software, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's correct. Yes.
Okay, good. And that COSEC, let's say I have a customer who has multiple buildings. He's got a building in Montreal and a building, or he's got 5 buildings in Montreal and he's got 5 buildings in Toronto, and he wants to manage all of it through this system. Can he manage it through this system with separate um, uh, access and separate authorization for each building for different people?
So this is my understanding. Then feel free to jump in, Minesh or Abe. But my understanding is that every building will have their own panel light, and this panel light, or the COSEC panel, right? Uh, you can port forward this COSEC panel, and you can remotely access the COSEC panel from an IP address or from a DDNS, which is similar to a DVR.
Hi, Jaden, I think we are going off track in terms of answering. I think his question was multi-location, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, multi-locations, yeah.
that's my I think I was answering that, no, because
So multi-location will not require multiple panel lights as long as they have a VPN, or we can set up a dime DNS. Then at that point of time, if connectivity is there, we will not require multiple panel lights.
What is a panel light?
The one at the top where you log in, the web-based UI,
the COSEC panel.
that you will only need one.
One for multiple buildings?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you explain how that works? Because I think that is I'm not
So,
familiar with that.
so basically, with VPN, you'll be able to connect every panel wherever you connect the ARC 200. They will be able to connect to the COSEC panel
The
at the
ARC.
top.
Okay. So if you have multiple buildings,
Right.
let's say you have 6 buildings,
Hmm.
and then you have a head office. It's your 7th building.
Right.
Or no, let's say you have your head office. It's the first building, but there's no access control there. It's just the building for the head office, and then the head office has 6 buildings in different cities, different condominium complexes, and in 6 different places. That COSEC panel, where would you install it? Would you install it at the head office?
So there are different options that we have. One is through Dyn DNS, we can connect different locations, just connect ARC at different locations, and put a panel light at the central location, your head office, from where you want to manage your 6 different buildings or 7 different buildings. The other option is we also have a cloud-based solution called Viome, wherein they will all be connected to the cloud and you can manage it using a single software. Or we also have an on-premise software called Centra, through which you can manage and monitor multiple locations. So at the end of the day, we have like 3 options through which you can centrally manage and monitor all the different locations.
Okay, but if you don't have a COSEC controller or
Mhm.
COSEC panel at each location, if the internet goes down, if your internet goes down, then you're not recording anything.
So in that case, we should go with COSEC Centra, which is our software-based, or Viome, which is our cloud-based solution. In that case, there will be local recording that will happen, irrespective of connectivity to the central location.
Okay, so what does the local recording? What item? What object does
So,
local recording?
so these are all slave readers. We also have door controllers in our product portfolio.
Mhm.
Jaden,
Yes.
were you able to cover that, the door controllers?
Briefly, but
If you can just go.
those
Yeah,
are like a
yeah, this one, the
standalone
DCCM,
controller reader.
the DCCM.
The DCCM, right? Mhm.
So this is a standalone door controller. This can in itself record, I think, 50,000 events. So when let's say there's no connectivity to the central server or central location or cloud, the system will still operate in a standalone mode. It will keep on recording uh, events, allowing access, deny based on the configurations that were already made. As soon as any kind of connectivity is established, the door controller will push the data to the central location. So there's no like manual refresh or you have to log into the system. As soon as connectivity, whenever the connectivity is established, the data will be pushed to the central location.
It's like a buffer, Mitchell. Like the readers and the so to understand again, Kaushal, right? So this standalone controller has like a buffer inside, right?
It has storage capabilities.
And
It's a smart device.
yeah,
So like it's
how about this?
consider this similar to your ARC 200. ARC 200 you can connect 2 readers.
Yeah,
This is same as like a ARC 200. It's not a slave or a
let's
reader.
keep let's keep it like just referring to the door controller. So this door controller, Mitchell, it's just getting the configuration from the panel. But if there's any connection interruptivity, it can still have an event buffer inside of it, like a 500,000 event buffer. So it will still operate. Then when the internet comes back, it will push all those events to the main server.
Okay.
Yeah. Then
Okay.
I want to quickly go to the cloud interface. And Kaushal, can you just briefly go over the cloud option we have? or Baraj.
If you can log in, Jay, then I can take
Sure.
it forward.
What what was the name? SM.
SM.
And
Password is admin.
admin.
Uh,
Yeah, you can talk about it.
So
Kaushik.
basically, this is a cloud-based platform. It's hosted on Amazon Cloud. What you are seeing here right now are a lot of different modules. You will not be receiving all the modules. Matrix as a solution provider offers different platforms. Along with access control, you can use it for time attendance, visitor management, job process costing, cafeteria management. So since this is a demo platform, you are seeing all the icons and different logos. If we just look at simple application wise, if you can just go to the access control part.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so there are different rules that can be connected. The most obvious and common ones are time-based, user-based access, allowing a user during a particular time of the day, particular days of the week. So that's time-based access. You can create time schedules. You can also create an access route that is in sequence which doors or which readers a particular person will be allowed access to. In terms of anti-passback, we support both global as well as local anti-passback. That means if a person's exit is not found, would that person be allowed access or deny access when he tries to re-enter? Multiple options, hard and soft for anti-passback. Hard is the person will not be allowed. Soft is a report will be generated that, but that person without an exit would be allowed entry again. You can create do not disturb zones for meeting rooms or other areas. Occupancy control. This is again important from a perspective of fire. In case of a fire hazard, who's in report can come out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's VIP access. That means they'll override all your access control policies. That person will be allowed access everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
Kaushik, all of these
yeah.
features are not only to the cloud, right? All of these.
No, all these features are also there in the panel. So if you can open the panel light, we can see there as well, including the monitoring and reports. If we can just open the panel light page.
Yep. Give me a moment. So pretty much what we're trying to say, we don't want to go into too much of a depth, but
Right.
all of
We'll
these
just
features,
look
yeah,
at the UI for a bit.
yeah. I'm opening the panel light. Let me share that with you. Yep, this is the panel light.
Right. So
This is the one.
configuration.
This is the one we have in our office, by the way. So this is the same interface that you guys will be seeing. This is a local IP device. We have
So you
all.
can just click on access policies and you'll see the list, like
Mhm,
2-person access route, time zone.
right. Mhm,
And if you can just open the COSEC monitor, like the monitor next to configuration on the top.
mhm.
So basically, this shows your real-time updates.
Right. If you go to live events, you can see any live events which are happening. They will push right to here, right? And event logs, you can search the events.
There's
Um,
also, yeah, you can select the log type as well.
right, right. Mhm. So everything will be managed from the panel light. And again, there are a lot of features in this. It's not just a simple access control system. It is
Um,
very flexible, right?
if you can just click on import export, I think in terms of at the bottom over there, right below elevator,
Yeah.
you can import and export reports. A lot of reports are also there.
Mm-hmm. Right. You can export all those events and so forth.
In terms of importing, you can import users and everything directly. You don't have to create them.
Mm. So, Dev, I think Peter mentioned something about a demo. So, do you know how we're going to be offering the demo? One moment. Dev, no. Okay, so regarding the demo, if anyone is interested to order a demo unit so they can, play around with the configuration, get used to it, please send us an email or just let us know in the chat if you're interested. Then we can arrange a demo unit. Um, all right, so I think this concludes our introduction to the Matrix access control system. So again, the system is very simple to use. And not only is it simple to use, but there's a lot of features packed into it. It's very flexible. And yeah, we are looking forward to getting the system into the hands of the installers, so you guys. And we look forward to your feedback. And I do thank everyone for joining the meeting today. We really appreciate it. And yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to send the email to so either myself, so Jaden, or to your salesperson here, or just give us a call. You can find our number on gsglobalsecurity.com. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Thank you all.